Today, we're unpacking something truly massive. We're looking at how an incredibly ambitious private startup literally transformed itself into an aerospace behemoth. We're talking about a staggering valuation here, north of $150 billion. I mean, for years now, people all over the world have watched SpaceX evolve from this really bold, kind of crazy idea into one of the most valuable private companies on the planet. So today, we're going to break down the exact mechanisms driving that massive valuation, looking at everything from their reusable rockets right up to those global satellite networks. So let me ask you something. It's a question that's probably crossed your mind as you've watched their rockets stick those incredible landings, or as you've seen their satellite network grow. Have you ever wished you could invest in SpaceX? Because let's be honest, if you're nodding right now, you are definitely not alone. It has become arguably one of the most exciting companies in the world. They're regularly sending astronauts into space. They're pushing the absolute boundaries of what's physically possible. And investors, well, they are absolutely hungry for a piece of the action. But of course, there's a catch, and it's a pretty big problem blocking the gates. Most people still can't just go out and buy a SpaceX stock, because the company remains fiercely private. However, recent secondary market sales, along with some very telling comments from Elon Musk, have the market intensely focused on the company's exploding valuation. You know, every single time news drops about their growth, it sparks this fresh wave of discussion about whether broader investor access might one day actually happen. And more importantly, it has people asking a massive trillion-dollar question. Could SpaceX actually become the next trillion-dollar company? Section 1. The reusable rocket revolution, changing the economics of space travel. To really get this, you have to look at the stark contrast between the past and the present. The old space industry, it was essentially like taking a multi-million-dollar 747 airplane, flying it for a single commercial flight, and then just throwing it away. Rockets were completely disposable, they were insanely expensive, and the whole thing was largely government-dominated. But under Musk's leadership, SpaceX completely shifted that paradigm. By actually landing those boosters on drone ships and reusing them, they've slashed the cost of reaching orbit by a full order of magnitude. Rocket landings that once seemed completely impossible, they've now become almost routine. And honestly, this is where the entire financial story of SpaceX really begins. And this is exactly why investors are so obsessed. SpaceX isn't just a rocket company anymore, not even close. They actually operate across 4 distinct, incredibly high-growth industries simultaneously. So yes, they have their dominant launch business, but they're also a highly lucrative defense contractor. They are rapidly becoming a massive global communications giant. And on top of all that, they're positioning themselves as a future transportation company. As they keep securing these massive contracts and totally dominating commercial launches, analysts are continuously having to revise their future value estimates upward. Section 2. Starlink, the real prize, the communications cash cow. When you really zoom out, the sheer scale of their addressable market is just staggering. We are talking billions of people, massive maritime fleets, global aviation, remote communities, all of them completely desperate for high-speed internet. And instead of relying on laying traditional cables or building cell towers, Starlink is providing coverage directly from space. This space-based network totally bypasses traditional infrastructure, which opens up a global market that is essentially limitless. Now, for investors, the absolute magic words here are recurring revenue. Wall Street historically assigns massive valuation multiples to predictable, continuous subscription income. So imagine applying software as a service multiples to an aerospace company. Starlink essentially transforms SpaceX from a heavy industrial manufacturer into a global internet service provider. It gives them this incredibly reliable, astronomical cash engine that completely justifies the soaring private valuations we keep hearing about. Section 3. The Starship opportunity, moving beyond current capabilities. Now let's talk about Starship. Its unprecedented payload capacity creates this massive ripple effect across the entire industry. I mean, it means deploying Starlink satellites at a fraction of today's cost. It paves the way for actual tangible lunar infrastructure, and ultimately, it makes crewed Mars missions genuinely feasible. So investors aren't just pricing in a cool new rocket, they are literally pricing in the potential transformation of human civilization and the creation of entirely new off-world economies. Section 4. IPO rumors and risks, the reality check. But before we get too carried away, we need to look at the fundamental clash of timelines that keeps Musk so hesitant on doing an IPO. Public markets are notoriously addicted to short-term quarterly earnings beats, right? They want results now. But SpaceX's true ambitions, things like building global satellite infrastructure and eventually colonizing Mars, those are multi-decade plays. Remaining private basically shields the management team from Wall Street's ticking stopwatch. It gives them that immense, crucial flexibility required for long-term development. Plus, let's be real, operating on the absolute frontier of physics brings immense friction. They are burning massive amounts of capital on rocket development, all while having to navigate painfully slow regulatory approvals. Add in some really fierce increasing sector competition and those completely inevitable technological setbacks, you've got an incredibly high-stakes environment. Growth expectations are already sky-high, which means any major misstep could severely impact that premium valuation. Section 5. A trillion-dollar future. Synthesizing the parts. Ultimately, the trillion-dollar thesis really comes down to synergy. They've already achieved incredible dominance with their core launch business, their early satellite internet rollout, and some very solid government contracts. But when you take that highly profitable foundation and use it to fund their future potential, like creating a near monopoly on global space communications and totally disrupting space transportation, well, the ingredients for unprecedented value creation are all right there. At this point, it's simply a matter of execution. Whether you're an investor, an entrepreneur, or really just a tech enthusiast, SpaceX's extraordinary ambition proves one undeniable truth. The biggest opportunities often come from solving the biggest problems. While a lot of companies are out there fighting over incremental software improvements, SpaceX is literally redefining human infrastructure from the ground up. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder as we watch this company attempt the impossible. Is SpaceX the next trillion-dollar frontier? The challenges ahead are astronomical, for sure, and execution is absolutely everything. But one thing is crystal clear. The market is watching very, very closely, and the next chapter is likely going to redefine history.